Mary's House Services opened its doors in 2016, and our first project was Mary's House Refuge, a safe place for women and children to stay when they're in crisis after escaping domestic and family violence. And it was started by community members across the lower North Shore and northern suburbs who knew there was a huge gap in services for women and children needing accommodation who've escaped domestic and family violence. So we started with Mary's House Services as a refuge 8 years ago. We started it purely with the goodwill, the financial donations and the blood, sweat and tears of the community. We wouldn't be where we are today in terms of service delivery if it wasn't for the generosity of the community. One example alone is that in Mary's House Refuge, we've already provided over 15,000 safe room nights of accommodation for women and their children. We've only been able to do that with donations from the community, and the community includes corporates and clubs like Norths Collective.
Our partnership with Mary's House spans close to 10 years, and in that time, we've supported them with around $75,000 in financial support. Mary's House, really for us, is one of the most critical, one of the most important partnerships that we've ever embarked on. And that is because they are doing such phenomenal, tremendous work within our community, supporting those who need it the most. And for us, that embodies what we stand for.
An example I can think of straight away is that through an initiative last year, they were able to donate quite a few gift cards for clients to use to go and do shopping for essentials for them and their children. That's what we call in our sector brokerage, pragmatic financial support to women so that they can provide for themselves and their family.
They don't really gain any government support, any government funding. So they rely on organisations such as Norths Collective to help support the wonderful work that they do. And so for us, Mary's House is always a priority. It's always an important piece of the puzzle for us because it helps us support them and it helps them support victim survivors of domestic and family violence.
Late last year, Mary's House Services became an official partner with the Bears. That's really important to us because we know that sports people are leaders in the community. We know that players are leaders in the community, as are their coaches and leaders of the club. And to know that the Bears cares deeply about the rights of everyone to be safe from abuse and violence, and they're prepared to say that and partner with Mary's House to make sure that's the case in their community is really important to us.
We've had a great start to the relationship. Mary's House Services attended the Bears season launch. They were special guests. They're also on the back of our football jersey every weekend. So that just shows the importance of the partnership. But they spoke very strongly in the room about domestic and family violence. And you could see that everyone was leaning in, listening to the message. These are the sorts of initiatives that we need to understand. And that way we can get out into the schools, we can get out into the community and work as representatives, not only of the Bears, but of Mary's House Services.
A key goal for Mary's House Services is actually to expand our refuge accommodation. Every night we can look after 4 women and their children, and as I mentioned before, we've already provided over 15,000 nights of safe accommodation, but we need to do more. There are so many women with children who need safe crisis accommodation across Sydney's northern suburbs. So within the next 5 years, we absolutely need to triple our capacity. So Mary's House Refuge is going to need a new home. We are going to need a refuge that can accommodate up to 12 women with their children at a time. Across Sydney's northern suburbs, there are only very few refuges available for women and children, and none of us can keep up with demand.
It's important to be aware and to understand domestic and family violence that's going on in the community. Mary's House Services are doing their best, but they're a small component in a really big problem.
I believe that there's a big, bright future between our two organisations, and this partnership's only going to grow. And we will always be there, organisation-wide, to support Mary's House in anything that they need.
So we hope that our relationship with Norths Collective and with the wider club community leads us to that miracle donor one day and helps us achieve our goal of more safe refuge accommodation for women and children escaping violence.